Hey guys, welcome to Goal 1.2 notes. If you think back to Goal 1.1, we were learning about synthetic materials versus natural resources and their impact on society. In Goal 1.2, we're going to really dive more into the idea of stuff and what it is made from. So here's our learning goal and what we want to accomplish here. If you read that A column there, that's what we're shooting for. I can identify the location and charge of protons, neutrons, and electrons within an atom. So we're going to start with the idea of atoms, since we need to understand that before we know what protons, neutrons, and electrons are. You may have heard the term atom before, and you may even know that it is what everything in the world is made up of. It's the basic building blocks that make up all substances and materials in the world. So, thinking of that idea of stuff from Goal 1.1, now we're diving into this is what the stuff is made of. We want to understand stuff scientifically. So, from now on, instead of saying stuff, we're going to refer to stuff as matter. All matter is composed of atoms. Like I said, they're building blocks. They're extremely, extremely small. And we're going to talk a lot about in class and watch some cool videos about just how small the atom is. So if you think about it, if we zoomed in on the tip of a pencil, pencils are made out of graphite. We call it lead, but it's really graphite. And graphite is a form of pure carbon. Carbon's an element from the periodic table. So if we zoomed in on graphite, we would find a lot of carbon atoms arranged in a nice, neat formation, kind of like what you see in the image there. Now, atoms are the building blocks, but they're not necessarily the smallest things that we know of in the world. Atoms are made up of even smaller particles. We call these subatomic particles, meaning lower than or smaller than atoms. And they're made out of three basic particles, which we refer to as protons, neutrons, and electrons. And I get this question a lot, but there are actually things that we know of that are smaller than protons, neutrons, and electrons. And that's when you get into the world of quarks. And quarks are very fascinating. I highly recommend that you go look those up and learn about them. For this class, though, we're not going to particularly dive too far into quarks. So it kind of stops at these subatomic particles. So we're going to draw an image of an atom, and I want you to follow along in your notes so that you have this to refer back to. So atoms consist of, like we said, those three particles. The first one is the proton, and protons are positive, so I'm going to put a plus sign next to that, and they are found in the middle of the atom, and that's what we call the nucleus. Put a positive sign. This particular atom we're drawing has three protons inside the nucleus. The next particle is the neutron. Okay, neutrons actually do not have a charge, so I'm going to put a 0, meaning no charge. And neutrons are also found in the center of the atom, or what we call the nucleus. So we put 4 neutrons there in the nucleus of the atom. So that part that we just drew, I'm going to put a circle around this so we can distinguish this from the other part, which we'll talk about in a second. But this is the nucleus of the atom. So let's go ahead and pull that. Protons and neutrons both found in the nucleus. The difference is protons have a positive charge and neutrons are neutral, meaning they do not have any charge at all. The last particle we call electrons. And electrons are the opposite of protons. They are negatively charged, so we use a negative sign for those. And they are actually found outside the nucleus, and they zoom around in what we call the electron cloud. So we're going to draw some electrons out here with negative charges. Okay, there we go. And again, we call that the electron cloud. So to remember that, sometimes it helps to sort of draw that cloud image around the outside. So just to recap, we've got protons and neutrons in the nucleus. Protons are positively charged. Electrons are outside the nucleus in the electron cloud. Now, in reality, And I'm going to show you an image here that will help you make sense of this. The electrons are flying around so fast around the outside of the nucleus that you can't even see them. We can't pinpoint exactly where an electron is at any given time. We can just make our best mathematical guess as to where they're at. So that's the reason we call it the electron cloud. If we could zoom in and see an atom, it might kind of look something like this, where you can't see the electrons because they're moving so fast. Almost like if you think of a wheel on a fast-moving car. So when you're on the highway and you look over and you see the wheels of the car next to you, you know that there are spokes there, but you can't necessarily always pinpoint where the spokes are because they're moving so fast. Same idea with the electrons.